forward one way or the other, and try to take an idea of philosophy of saying we need a renovation to a bay center or a potential second facility, and try to get it into some version of tactic. Again, open-minded, and certainly come into it with the mentality of, what can the administration do for the council, for the county commission, to be as helpful as we possibly can. So it's a complex conversation. It's multiple governments. We obviously understand that. But I can speak for the administration saying we're open-minded about where this goes, and that I feel like this is an important community decision and a community conversation. So we're happy to facilitate and be as helpful as we can to all parties involved to make something happen. Just want to share, we had a record at 311 in March. We had 1,300 calls to 311, which is, according to our constituent services, the most we've ever had in a month. And that's a very good thing for two reasons. Number one, it's a service we provide to the citizens. It's one of the values of living in the city, that you have 311 to call if you see a pothole or feel like your garbage was missed or whatever the case may be. That's why it exists, is for ease of use. So when you see a record number, then that is a good thing, because people are finding value in it and are hearing about it. And so that's good. And secondly is, first, it's good that people know about it. And second is that there's enough trust that these things are getting done. And you guys have heard me talk about many times the difference of when we got here, having a couple thousand tickets backlogged, and then now really being down to 40, 50, 60 tickets at the most being active at any given time. So in 2025, I know constituent services routed, tracked, and responded to 4,827 issues in the city limits, answered 11,083 calls, closed 4,659 citizen tickets, and maintained an average time to resolve a citizen concern of 5 to 7 days. So again, keep that in mind. 5 to 7 days could be, there's a pothole, something like that isn't going to get fixed overnight. So again, very, very appreciative of Lisa and her team on that. And my suggestion is keep calling 311. My friends will text me and say, hey, something about garbage or something about a power bill. Honestly, it's just as fast. I joke with them. It's faster to call 311 probably than it is to call me. But I've got to send an email and then another email. 311 is my number one tool to be able to resolve citizen issues. Whether it's somebody I've never met before or somebody I've known my whole life, it's the fastest and most efficient way to do it. So glad to see that people are using it. We did have our meeting. David Stafford and our team had a meeting with DOT in person here. We had a good conversation on the area projects, obviously discussed 14th and Gregory. We discussed a little bit about the Garden Alcaniz curve there. We certainly can share that the scenic highway repairs are in progress. If you remember the outfall that needed to be fixed, and that complete right there at Hyde Park and Scenic, and that completion will be in about 6 to 8 weeks. So we shared our thoughts, and we're going back to they're going to come up with some potential solutions. I know our team is taking the information that we've had, processing that, and again, like we just talked about the Bay Center, hoping we're going from philosophy to tactic here, pretty soon. So looking forward to that, and I appreciate as I was told, a very, very populous room down there. So I appreciate FDOT bringing all of their resources and bandwidth and subject matter experts on these issues over to Pensacola from Chipley. All right, we have this weekend. We have an Arbor Day event. Our city arborist team is giving away some tree seedlings Saturday, April 18th, this Saturday at Bayview Park as part of Earth Day and Arbor Day celebrations. It'll be done in partnership with Earth Day festivities at Bayview from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the city will be giving away 245 seedlings of native trees beginning just after 10 a.m. So to maintain our status as a tree city, we need to complete obviously at least one Arbor Day event per year. The Florida Forest Service and City of Pensacola are supplying those seedlings. City of Pensacola is funding it through the Tree Planting Trust Fund, and 10 different species are being provided, totaling the 245 trees, and they're all sourced from local nurseries as well. So our city arborist will be there to answer any questions. And so again, 10 to 4 is the Earth Day thing, Saturday at Bayview Park. And just after 10 a.m. is when we'll start giving those away if you're interested. Their ARB meeting will include a demolition permit for the motor lodge. This is a rekindling of the original permit in November of 2023. If you recall, and sometimes this gets confused in some of our public meetings, there was a discussion, certainly from me, early on with the motor lodge of we would allow the market to dictate whether this was something that made sense to repurpose like other hotels, or if we felt that the highest and best use of getting affordability was to demolish. When we got those initial applications back, about 3 of them, I believe, all of them had speculated to demolish the building. We had no applicants that had any interest in repurposing. I know Councilman Wiggins mentioned in a public meeting, he just went by recently and certainly is in advocating for that we get more units and that we don't know that these are in the condition or have been for a long time in the condition to be repurposed efficiently. So the CRA is actually bringing forward the request. PACES will be there. Obviously, we're in contract negotiations with PACES after the last CRA meeting and my early conversation with them was as part of their due diligence process or part of their site prep process, going ahead and demolishing, and we can have a contingency, but we want to go ahead and get the building down sooner rather than later. And I know that's again been a request of several council members. So again, this was originally submitted November 23 and then now resubmitted in 26. So obviously it's older than 50 years. There could be a 60-year stay, pause on the demolition. And I would expect that that's probably what will happen, as it customarily does with any of the buildings over 50 years. But looking forward to the future and being able to get affordable units there at the Motor Lodge. Baptist update meeting tomorrow is at Lakeview Center. I think that's the most important takeaway here. It's not at Fricker Center. It's at the Lakeview Center, the gymnasium there, right there, contiguous to the campus. So just wanted to make sure we noted that change of location. Jacobs Engineering will be there, North Star will be there, and representatives from PACES actually for their 2 affordable projects that they have moving along. So we anticipate that's where all the future town halls will be. It's really just logistical from a parking standpoint. There's just a little extra room there to handle that, and not as many conflicts. We don't want to have any interruption or impact on services. And the third reason is we're going under construction at some point this year at Fricker. So, we're going to have to interrupt the flow of having these at Fricker one way or the other. So we're going to go ahead and make that change now, just purely logistically. So all of these Baptist events that aren't on site are going to be at Lakeview Center moving forward. Palafox update is my last thing. Curb and gutters, 90%. They will be done by the 24th. Irrigation install on Palafox is done. The pedestrian pavers, 90% complete. Those will be done by May 8th. Vehicular pavers, meaning the pavers that are the small parts that where there are pavers in the streets, those are just getting underway, 10% complete. Those will also be done by May 8th. The Palafox specific completion, still on schedule, as we've always said, for May 24th. The side streets completion date, we've gotten this question, I know, from some businesses, because remember, this project goes beyond Palafox. The second phase will be doing alternating some of the side street work between Balin and Jefferson on those cross streets. That work will be through November 25th. So again, there'll be more details and more to come on which roads will be closing when. But as of now, Palafox Street, May 24th. On schedule, sorry, I lied to you last thing. Main Street drainage improvement, the B Street and Brancas closure. It began this week and it's scheduled to reopen May 13th. L Street is closed for stormwater pipe installation, scheduled to be complete May 10th. And then ECUA, outside of the city, ECUA is, city operations is inside the city limits, is doing infrastructure improvements on Brankus, K, and Main Street, which wrap up May 15th. So long and short of it is lots of work going on in that corridor of the southwest side of the city, Brankus, B Street, K Street, L Street. So if you're to and from military base, get on our website, make sure you're looking at those maps. I know we've shared them on all our social media multiple times. And a lot of that work will be done by mid-May, but just expect some delays and just be cognizant of all of that great and very important work occurring over there in that area, and we appreciate your patience. That's everything I've got, and happy to take your questions.
Mayor, on the motor lodge, originally the city, the CRA purchased it to lease.
Yes.
Is that still with Pace's a lease deal?
No, what the pivot that we made was for a sale, and it's for really one important reason. Under the lease arrangement, the ground lease arrangement, we were having to do a lot more logistical work to help. So say you propose a ground lease, but remember those winning proposals were contingent upon getting some type of subsidy from the federal government, tax credit, low income housing tax credit deal or something like that. Well, the difference between ground leasing and selling it outright, neither of those, the concept is the same for Paces. The difference is if we're doing a ground lease, that's putting the CRA in a lot of maintenance, and then if they don't get the credit, now we're having to go back. So really, what we said is it serves the same purpose. At the end of the day, a 99-year ground lease at the Motor Lodge or 50 or 60-year ground lease versus selling it, because honestly, most sales have been contingent. Sale or ground lease have been contingent upon receiving tax credits. I know Paces has indicated, but perhaps it's something that they'd be willing to take on. So to get this logistically, operationally, and bandwidth-wise off of the city books, again, our job is not to purchase property like this and sit on it. Our job is to purchase property like this, turn it into a subsidy that creates affordability. So the sales strategy of this really means that the end deliverable is the same. It's going to need a tax credit more than likely, but we don't have to be the ones playing middleman between that. But we will absolutely, and I will reinforce, the sale will be contingent upon this being affordable housing. There will not be the allowance of, or at least from my desk, the council could have a different opinion. But from a negotiation standpoint, we are not going to sell this and then a company try to get one tax credit, they don't get it, and then they turn it into market rate. That's not what we're doing. The whole reason we took this on was to create some level of affordability. I know that's what Paces is invested in. So there's still going to be this equal controls in place to ensure that when the sale happens, it stays affordable, but it just gets us out of the middle, kind of the telephone game of still owning the property and then having to go out to bid, and then if they're unsuccessful, starting that cycle all over again.
Mayor, did the CRA vote? I may have missed it. Did they vote on agreeing to demolish the motor lodge?
I'll have to get you from a council action standpoint. I mean, this is an ARB application to do so. All I can tell you what I know anecdotally, there has been several conversations, including from the city council person, about getting it demolished. So obviously, whatever legal steps, whether they have taken place or will need to take place, will. We're not circumventing any rules, but what we're really doing is trying to take the feedback we've gotten from the sitting council member and others to say, hey, if we're moving forward with this, why wouldn't we apply for demolition sooner rather than later? But in terms of what CRA has applied for, or what the vote that they've brought forward, or if that's already taken place, we can get CRA to follow up with you on where we are in the timeline of that. I just don't want to misspeak.
And who would pay for the demolition? Would the city pay for the demolition?
Well, I mean, in my head, there's a couple ways to do it. One would be, I think there could be some contingency in the agreement for Paces. To me, the more expedient way to handle this would be to say, hey, Paces, part of the agreement that the negotiation we're going to come up with of selling you the property is you're going to take it down. And then in a unforeseeable circumstance, let's say there's some unforeseen issue, then yeah, maybe we would participate in that. We're not trying to stick them with a demolition for something that they aren't going to own. But I think from an expediency standpoint, it may make the most sense to go ahead and get the agreement with Paces, allow them to demolish, and then we work out what that would look like in different scenarios, whether that would be something that would be just, it could be absorbed within the sale, for example, right? We could say, all right, well, the cost of the demolition is X. Here's what the sale price is, or here's what the agreement is. It's absorbed in there, and then there's some type of qualifier if things go sideways with them. So that's philosophically how I would be approaching it, is let's get them this transaction, let's get that approved, and then come up with a kind of a demolition strategy with Paces, and then go from there. So I just know that would probably happen cheaper and happen faster for sure if it was done that way versus the city doing it.
So it wouldn't be demolished until the agreement with Paces is done.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't. Now listen, the CRA could. I mean, they can go to any meeting they want and say, hey, move this money to this money, and then go knock it down, right? We would have to go execute it, but so I can't speak for what the CRA, how quickly they want to knock it down. You'd have to ask them that. But on the administration side, I would say our position is let's get into an agreement with Paces that also figures that part out. Let them proceed that way, and then. Again, hopefully it's just a sale. They have a demolition. There's some deed restriction that it's got to be affordable, and in a certain amount of time, and that there's a certain amount of units, that type of thing. Those are the details that I know we're going to be working through with them. So that's the way I would prefer to do it now. But if the CRA says, "Here's a bucket of money and let's go do it ourselves," my recommendation is the government is not going to move faster or cheaper than the private market. So I actually think it would probably be a net value to the taxpayer if we have a partner that's willing to take that on.
Mayor, on the 311,
Yeah.
Do you have any analysis of the 1,300 calls? One look, you have 1,300 people that are active. I know you spun it another way, but do we have any sort of analysis of the 1,300?
Not necessarily. I'm sure we can. I mean, I know we can. We could probably give you a line item of every. Here's 1,300.
Well,
Yeah.
No, I don't need a line item. I
Yeah.
think what we're looking is it parks? Is it sanitation? Is it? I think that's significant.
Yeah. I mean, I can speak generally, not specific to these 1,300, but generally speaking, the vast majority of our calls are going to be sanitation, energy, public works are going to be the vast majority of our calls. Some will be random, outlier type things. But that's why we're always very clear in our language. Resolve doesn't mean that if a constituent calls and says, I'd like a new road, out in front of my house, or a second road in our neighborhood, that we can do it. It just means that we've at least responded back to them and all that. But that's where the majority of them, and I would probably venture to say sanitation would be number one. I'm speculating there, but I think it's a safe speculation. But I don't mean line item all 1,300. My point is we can give you a pie chart of any given month, any given year of where those calls are.
How do you use that information? Y'all use it as a management tool for areas you need to improve?
Listen, we're always monitoring with different issues, and it is hard to say, 1 month we could have a snowstorm, or 1 month we could have recycling stop or start again, and you're going to see these, influxes. But Daryl does an awesome job out at sanitation. Again, I think, the most improved award from an operational standpoint and all of that, taking on a lot of complexity of stopping, restarting, moving recycling areas, having some operational issues there that we've helped resolve. It's always going to be a tough front-facing department to deal with. So I know that John and Nate and Daryl and their team do a very, very good job of staying on top of those things. If they see a problem area or a serial issue, that it's something that certainly gets to Amy and gets to our desk to say if it's something that we have to handle. So actually the council brought up one recently, I guess Councilman Bear brought up about cardboard and, do we want to modernize this cardboard rule, those types of things. So we try to react as best we can, but we can get you exact by the month, by the year groupings. And
Mayor, has Inspire agreed to this third-party audit for Lot 4?
I have an internal meeting this afternoon here, not with them, and that I know I'll get read in on exactly where things stand and what. Obviously, I notified the Herald and Inspired about my position on the issue previously. They wrote back and ultimately said, hey, we'll be back in touch, and not because they should have already. I just mean we're waiting to hear back, and I don't want to discount that they may have had some staff level conversations or city attorney level conversations that haven't been involving me yet. But I expect I'll have a better update next week after we discuss with them. But so as of now, my position is the same: is show us what the taxpayer gets for their money, and so they can do that tomorrow. They can do that next week. The timeline. There's clear timelines in the lease that they need to be able to proceed by, and we do not want to be a time hindrance to them. But again, you receive an application of that size and a request of that amount. I'm just not on board with that.
Mayor, is the ARA policy contained within the West Main Master Plan? Do you think it's still necessary? Is your TIF revenues for those two CRAs well exceeding your debt service?
Yeah.
You're in pretty good shape, aren't you?
Yeah. Two things on that. One, I think a big part of the spirit of ARA was ultimately preempted by Live Local, right? Because yes, there are more things outside of affordability that the ARA qualifies. I think there's like 10 different checkboxes, if I remember correctly. But a couple of them, 2 or 3 of them, involve affordable housing in some way. And so I know when I first got read in on ARA, probably in the first few days or weeks of being here, that I think the Waverly maybe was discussing one right when I got here. And I know there was a big part of affordability. But even my conversation with CRA back then was, it's kind of a rigid set of rules for what we all know in development. And I think my opinion on this is only reinforced through 3.5 years in this job is every development is different. What they provide is different. What size, what's the community good that it's going to be providing. And I've maintained to every single private property owner or potential developer that comes into our city, I say really the same 2 things. We're going to do the same math that you do. Just so do whatever math you'd like, but we are going to have expert analysis on that math so we fully understand. Again, don't as Tom Murphy said, the mayor of Pittsburgh when he came here 7 years ago, don't tell me, the mayor, why it's good for us. Tell us why it's good for you. Meaning, we understand that this is a business and it's complex and you're not doing this to lose money, but we still have to meet some version of community good. So that's one. So I think the rigid nature of ARA makes it difficult. I don't mean that I would be in some big rush to eliminate it or anything. And I'll tell you, I will say my position's evolved on this a little bit. I remember Eric and I having conversations spirited by the Grand Hotel about, well, should we have some more front-facing programs that we can point investment to say, hey, you can go look and we're interested in this and interested in that and all that. But what we really came to a pretty quick realization on talking with our outside experts, Lambert and everybody else, is it's just every project is so uniquely different. And so I would not be surprised if we rarely, if ever, see ARA applications, because, and maybe it comes in that form, but every one of these, in my opinion, requires some conversation because how large is it? What are you providing? And there's so much more of an assessment than just the dollars and cents of the size of the project that need to be evaluated. So it's just tough to put every peg into the same type of hole that ARA is. But that doesn't mean conceptually that we aren't open to having conversations that can help bring community good.
So you believe that Live Local has had as much impact as ARA has had since you've been the mayor?
Well, I mean, I guess we've done 0 ARA and 0 Live Local, so it's got the same impact for better or worse. And by the way, that's not on the onus of the city, meaning someone applying for it. I mean, I believe the only Live Local application that I know that we've received, or at least is, I don't mean that people haven't acquired, that is the Hard Rock Project, right? That I'm aware of. And ARA, same thing. I mean, I think Waverly was going to apply or had been in the process of applying before I took office. And then remember, we actually moved, that's a perfect example. We moved to okay, well, we'll work with you for $1.3 million. We matched the same ratio of funding that East Garden District had done, but we had put the key stipulation in that said, we aren't building anything until you build something. Well, we were able to save that $1.3 million because they never built anything, and then now that's back in the coffers of the CRA to go work on other projects. So, so that's a perfect example of why the ARA isn't always the best solution. We can come up with ways to public partner with private development, but just every one of them is going to be different, and that's why you have an administration to try to negotiate those things, and that's why you have a CRA board and a city council to get their questions, their concerns answered, and make sure that it's something that they can get behind. So, so again, I'm looking forward to on the Hard Rock Project. I'm looking forward to a conversation as soon as they're ready to have it. But it's just going to have to be in a different form, and it's going to have to certainly be a lower request than they've put in so far. Yes.
The newly formed Escapia Destination Marketing Organization plans to be at tomorrow's joint meeting on the Bay Center, and they say they oppose the convention center. You know, what are your thoughts about that?
Well, first of all, their advocacy for different parts of this community comes in many forms. I mean, having a group get together and say, here's our interest in what happens in the city or in the county is, certainly up to them. Again, there's advocacy groups on all sorts of issues here that come to council meetings or send letters. I've received the letter that I know has been out there publicly now. They sent me a copy of that as well. And so certainly they have their right to do that. What I'm more interested in on Thursday is going to be what level of harmony is there between a convention center and some type of multi-purpose use. And I'll tell you, it was WT's work. I was skeptical of that. You guys have heard me say it. I said it from here, saying, well, I don't want to be a jack of all. I don't want to have a half convention center and a half multi-purpose facility that really doesn't meet the needs or serve a direct purpose. And as I keep joking, doing the typical government thing where you try to please as many people as possible because that's what's easiest politically, but then you end up with a net product that isn't serving the community of which you've been elected to serve. So I had my own skepticism about that. It was really WT and all of their expertise where they're saying, hey, no, there are versions that already exist of harmonious solutions that, yes, maybe it's a convention center focus, but you still can put volleyball courts in there or basketball courts, that type of thing, or you can open it into making it a big hall for a Pensacon type of event. So I think there's a lot to get into the weeds about what the actual use of the buildings are. So I'm not here to eliminate, or I think it's just way too early to be picking sides we don't know enough about what's the county's county controls the bed tax at the end of the day. What's the county's appetite to enter into a public-private partnership for a second building? I think that's got to be discussed. And then third is, I think we should get in the weeds on, I think it'd be good for county commissioners and council members, myself, to, if we can find some apples to apples hybrid use type buildings that fit our market and is something that the consultants think would work and be successful here, we should probably get in a car, get on a plane, and go see it ourselves, just to see how it works and how it associates. So I think there's a lot of work to be done, and I don't think we're anywhere near the point right now. I certainly appreciate advocacy, the letters on that, on ice rinks. I just think there's a lot of work to do for us to figure out, one, what's the general appetite of these governing bodies to take this project on, and then get into some greater detail as the pros and cons. I don't know that you can form a fully knowledgeable opinion on convention center versus multipurpose yet, because I don't even know that we've really seen at an expert level what all of those options might be. So that's why I said earlier, I enter with an open mind, and let's have an open conversation about what the uses are, what the needs are, and go from there.
I also have a question about ECAT. It's used by many city residents, and the service is in the midst of a survey. Has the city had dialogue regarding the survey?
I have not had any direct. That does not mean, Caitlin Sarame, I know, is involved with some of the ECAT operational things, and I couldn't be more supportive of this new look. The ECAT is not, obviously it's operated at the county level. Our taxpayers pay for those services, but we are not, really directly in the administration of it, and don't know any details, timelines to speak of. But what I can tell you, I've read the news the same way that our constituents are, and I'm in full support of modernizing the approach. And I've heard from mayors all over this country that I've sat in enough breakout sessions and things like that where this conversation comes up, and I've heard a lot of the really positive impacts that have happened in a city when you take a modern approach to where you're running buses when. It's the natural case of here's a service that's been provided for decades all over the country in cities and counties like ours. And there's probably in 2026 a more advanced, a more modern way to do something than there was maybe many, many years ago. So if they can make it more efficient and on the taxpayer, I mean, ECAT is certainly one thing I can say, even though I'm not involved in operations, is ECAT is not a profitable venture. This is a service that is provided the same way parks are provided and things like that. So that what that means is the taxpayer's paying for it. And so I think respecting the taxpayer dollar as best we can, which is to still provide this very needed service to help fuel our small businesses, to help our residents. And we don't want to give up any quality of that service and the importance of that. But if there's a smarter way to look at it, a more modern way to look at it, I fully support that. And anything that the county would need or ECAT would need from us to be helpful in that endeavor, we'd be happy to, because I think that's a really good move.
Mayor, one final thing on the voter lives.
Yeah.
Has the CRA or the administration, have you developed a term sheet yet with the PACES on what this deal may look like?
The closest thing I would say we have to that right now, John, is the RFP itself. Remember, there's some pretty general outlines of what's expected to happen there, or what we want to see out of the project. So that has not reached me yet. Again, I know that there's conversations happening between PACES and the city. I just mean that hasn't gotten to my desk yet. But I've been pretty clear with PACES and with our council members that my number one thing that I'm going to be looking for is we bought it on the premise, and the whole reason for why we paid for it was, one, to lower all of the calls for service, which has been successful, and number two is to provide some type of attainable housing. So you can guarantee there will be some control in place that the city would not just be selling this property at whatever price, where that promise could be left unfulfilled. It's going to take time. All of these tax credit projects take time. And again, I think there's some different expectations from some council members about how long these take. Just go look at the PACES projects on Baptist. Those have been in the works years before the city was getting into demolition and all of that. These things just take time, unfortunately. And I think every mayor wants to see affordability move faster, affordable housing access move faster. But there will absolutely be some principal control in place that says, PACES, we are selling this property to you for this use. And if it's not going to be used for this, there's going to be some restriction.
So if you go to closing on something like PACE, do you close it in-house, or do you use a broker?
It would probably be best to have Adam or Dean, because it could depend. It could depend on the size of the project. It could depend on the bandwidth in the attorney's office at that time, right? If there's major projects coming through. So I would probably defer to Adam and happy to get you that information on kind of what our normal SOP is when it goes to closing. My part in the timeline is the approval and the signature and they don't invite me to the closings. The city attorney handles all that. So if there's a normal cadence for that, we'll provide that to you. But I could see it being maybe a little bit of both.
I might
Yeah.
have one more question. The sponsored item for the statue of Baby Park was rejected Thursday.
Yeah.
Do you intend to bring it up again?
I'm still, again, just got read in, getting back yesterday afternoon. So I'll have to learn a little more and go back and watch and see what I got the general general brief on the 3-3 vote, but could be a council member brings it back up again. And so what I'd say is I haven't made a decision at this moment, this soon after, that the administration's going to bring it back. But looking forward to that conversation, whenever it happens.
Mayor, on the meeting with FDOT.
Yeah.
Were there any parameters that were worked out for 14th and Gregory? There were some significant differences with the city and with FDOT.
Well, what I can say is that I think we've narrowed the daylight between some of those things, not meaning that there's a decision that's been made of what would happen there. But, the classic case of being able to get in the same room with our experts and their experts. And sometimes it hits a little different than, one opinion in an email than another opinion in an email. So mission accomplished in that sense. And I think our teams are looking at stuff internally on the city street, which is 14th Avenue. And I think FDOT is, we certainly trust the fact that they're absolutely genuine in wanting to find a solution. So the most important part is we aren't in disagreement that there is an issue, right? So that's I think the biggest takeaway for me, and that's what I really wanted to hear is we all know there's an issue to address. This would be a lot longer and a lot more painful if one side thought it wasn't a problem, one side thought it was. So we do have that consensus. Now it's just a matter of what are the tactics that we can deploy, to improve it there. We are committed to doing something there for sure. But there's just a little more, after that meeting, there's just a little more due diligence to do on both sides before we come up with exactly what that is.
So they're going to come back with the proposal?
Well,
the Gregory Street?
Yeah, I mean, I would expect that our team and their team are going to be working hand in hand. Again, one's a state road, and something's going to there's going to be a consequence to 14th Avenue no matter what happens there. So, and that's a city road. So I don't think it would be as much as they're going to go back to Chipley and we're not going to hear from them, and then they're going to propose something. I would expect, sparked by that in-person meeting, there'll be some more collaborative, and I don't mean we weren't collaborative before. I think we were just kind of working in they're doing their thing, we're doing our thing. I fully expect a positive collaboration moving forward. And that it won't be they're doing their thing and we're doing our thing. I think we've gotten on the same page about that. And again, most important to me is that we've identified the problem, that there is a problem, and what we do in step 2, we'll see. But and that'll take a few weeks, but we'll continue to update you as we get updates.
Mayor, do you have any thoughts about Councilman Charles Bayer's proposal for next week's city council meeting to roll back the CRA interlocal with the city to be back to the 2019 state where the CRA staff basically reports to the city council instead of being directed by you?
As with many items with Councilman Baer, I hear about them in the meeting for the first time too. So I haven't spent a lot of time. I'm not trying to not answer your question. I just mean, it's kind of like picking up the newspaper. I learn when especially if I wasn't at the meeting. So I haven't had a chance to analyze that. What I can tell you is I think that Councilman Moore's position on this, that he's mentioned several times in meetings publicly, certainly has better context than I have. He's been here longer. And typically he does a pretty good job of rehashing the conversation that took place when the change was made. And because I think it's pretty well in alignment with why the strong mayor change was made, which is the idea is that there's staff waking up every day, administration waking up every day to bring these things forward. So whether CRA board members agree with or disagree with or vote for or against these items, I would be shocked to hear disagreement that the fact that we have the volume of items and the volume of things moving in the CRA to begin with, you're not going to get agreement from all 7. But the whole idea is that the engine's running all the time, not waiting once a month for a meeting, and then we have a workshop, and then we have, that was the whole idea of getting out of, I believe, the former form of government as well. And again, just really taking it off of information from folks who were there when the process moved. And that certainly wasn't at our request, that had already taken place. But what I can say is I'm certainly proud of our CRA staff bringing the volume and amount of things. The reason we collect CRA taxes is to reinvest them in the city. And so complacency or having long logistical times between meetings or lots of indecision could certainly deter our ability to be able to reinvest those dollars. So all I can say is I'm proud of the work that our CRA department has done to be able to bring these things forward. I can't speak for Councilman Baer's opinion on that or Councilman Moore's, but that's where we are right now. We're following exactly what the rules are that are put in place, and we continue to be as urgent as we possibly can to bring many, many transformational CRA projects forward. Anything else? All right, guys, thank you so much.